everyone. We sincerely appreciate you joining us this morning for the second of our third workshop in a series for college employees and community partners. These workshops aim to promote and facilitate education and training opportunities for our Hispanic Latinx community to grow, to enhance, and the economic vitality of our population of Latinos in Northeast Ohio. We will be recording this session, and a link will be provided and available on our Unidos por la Educación webpage, which is tri-c.edu/unidos. We ask that you please remain muted during the duration of this presentation, but we certainly invite you to submit any questions or comments via the chat, which our presenters and myself will be monitoring. And certainly we are a small enough group, I think, that we could, unmute if you do have a question or a comment during the presentation. And now I'm pleased to introduce to you our presenters today. From our financial aid offices, our financial aid advisors, Myra Adams, Calvin Butler, and I think Angel Poindexter as well has joined us. So take it away. Thanks.
Thank you, Magda, and thank you for hosting this event. I want to welcome everyone to this event, and hopefully you'll find a lot of good, useful information that is presented. Go ahead, Maida. So as Ms. Gomez had indicated, my name's Calvin Butler. I'm one of the financial aid advisors at the Eastern Campus in financial aid and scholarship. So we're going to go over how to apply for financial aid, EFC, expected family contribution, and what that means, cost of attendance, which every institution of higher education has, the types of aid or financial assistance that students can apply to, go over accessing books, disbursements, the schedule, how refunds are issued or the time frame on when refunds are issued to students. We also offer some other services. We have a benefit access project Go department. So I believe Maida will be, the other advisors will be touching on that as far as extra resources for students. We also have a process where we can look further into a student's eligibility through the professional judgment, dependency overrides, and some other processes we have. We'll be looking at course program of study and satisfactory academic progress. All right, thank you, Maida. All right, so the most important thing as far as getting the process started is, and hopefully you guys can hear me, I should ask that, so hopefully everybody can hear me clearly, is applying. The application that students apply, thank you, is called the FAFSA. We just all say FAFSA, that's the acronym that we use, but it stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Okay, it's found on www.studentaid.gov. And so this is an application that's done completely online, and it is something that has to be done at least once per school year. So here at Tri-C, every fall starts off the new school year, and right now we're in between school years. So if you interact with students and they're like, oh, I need help for summer, it is still not too late to apply for summer. June 30th of this month is the last day to apply for the 22-23 school year. So, those in academia know that we are currently in the 22-23 school year, which ends with our summer semester. That application is still available. We're still able to receive that. June 30th is the last day to apply for that. And so most of the students, though, will be applying for the next school year with this upcoming fall. So when they go to the website, you're going to see two applications, one for this year and one for next year. All right. To apply, you would need FSA ID, which stands for Federal Student Aid ID. And basically that is just a username or password. So we want to move, with changes coming up, especially in the next year or so, anybody that gets on the website, it works that much smoothly when you create a username and password. Okay, it opens up the door and just allows for a smoother process. So even if you don't apply for aid, you can still create your username and password for future use. Some of the items that you're going to need to help you answer some of the questions will be your federal tax return and W-2 or income statements. Now, if you didn't work or file, you would have whatever income you had for that year available to answer those questions, because it will get very detailed with the financial part of the application. And we go 2 years back. We used to go one tax year back. So for the upcoming school year, if you're for the upcoming school year, you're going to be using the federal income for 2021. So I know it seems a while ago, but to allow early admissions, and so you don't have to wait for people to file their tax returns. Everyone at this point should have filed their 21 taxes. So if you worked and filed, you would have to have that document readily available, as well as your W-2. Even if you didn't make enough to file and you had a W-2, have that with you, because it does ask specific questions off of that. It will ask about your assets up until, these changes coming up. We're still asking about assets, investments, your savings and checking accounts. So have all your financials readily available when applying, because it does get very detailed. If you own a business, like some of us don't work, but they're self-employed. They work, but in a different platform. They own a business, or they have investments, or they own a farm, or they have a house that they use as their business. So all these things are incorporated into the financial section of applying for financial aid. Thank you. All right, so it can be daunting and overwhelming, but we do offer assistance. We'll take you from start to finish. As long as you have the right documents, we can help you through this process, because it can get very confusing, and you can't get frustrated during it. But we have helped many students, and will continue to do so. So at each campus, one of the 4 locations, there are workshops. You do not need an appointment typically. If you want to get yourself on the list, you just call in to get scheduled. And this is, a rotational Tuesday. So every Tuesday, I believe it's at 3 o'clock on one of these campuses. You can go there with your information, and we can help you from start to finish to complete the FAFSA, in hopes of getting some resources for you to help to pay for college. All right. So you've completed the application. You've gotten a couple emails from the Department of Education, and it's like you're waiting. So just to give you a kind of time frame, typically within a week, within 5 business days or 7 calendar days, as long as you have entered us as one of the institutions or schools to receive your FAFSA, we receive it. So we have an electronic data exchange, between us and the Department of Education, where we pull in applications daily, into the database. And that's really what starts the financial aid process. And it's really what creates your financial aid profile, or dashboard, so to speak. So all of us attending are familiar with the My Tri-C space. So this is very important. I tell students, please check your financial aid file, financial aid dashboard at least once a week, because the student can be fully awarded, oh, I have enough money for books and this, but you never know when a requirement's going to pop up. Sometimes the government will send us an updated report. Sometimes we're required to rerun certain information, and it will generate a requirement. So just because you get all green and document received completed and you're good to go, please advise your students or send them to us. Make sure they're checking not only their Tri-C email, but their Tri-C financial aid dashboard, So on here, you'll see a bunch of information. When we get your FAFSA, your file is created for that particular school year. So as you can see, the red arrow is pointing to a particular school year. So as students log into their MyTriC space, they'll see various boxes. Luckily, there's only one box that says financial aid. So you click on that, it opens up another window, and at the top where the arrow's pointing to, you want to make sure that the student's looking at the right correct year. Okay, so each year could have different requirements. So you want to make sure that they're on the year that they want to find out about. Okay, for this particular school year, even though it's in the past, you'll see a pink or red shaded requirement. That means that student has not done that. Okay, so they need to open that requirement, do that. And this particular requirement actually helps them get resources for books. But they'll see multiple requirements, okay? And as they complete requirements, you'll see the color go from pink or red to green. And green is the final color you want because that means the document's received, it's been processed. On the student end, they'll see document received or document completed, okay? That means they fulfilled that requirement. So the goal is to always have that. But again, it is important because you never know, or sometimes we don't know when we're going to have to put another requirement out there. But this is how they monitor. And also this at the top, you will see award offer. Now we communicate with the student officially through their Tri-C email. So anytime there's changes or that initial award, they will get a notification letting them know that their awards are ready or a certain process is ready. And they can actually go back into this screen and click on award offer to see their specific awards. All right, next slide. All right, so part of the application is they take all this data, they look at income, taxes paid, how many's in the household, how many's in college, child support, all these things, all this money coming into the household, going out of the household, and they generate what's called an expected family contribution. It actually turns into a number. So the best way I can describe this part of the process is like an algebra equation. When we all had algebra, we had to solve for the variable C, D, whatever. So you had all these variables in an equation, and it comes up with, you find what this value is for in this case the EFC, or expected family contribution. And basically we use this a couple different ways. It's an index number. All right, it directly affects how much Pell Grant you're going to get, and it can indirectly affect other types of aid. We also use it as a dollar amount, and this will be changing soon, but for the next year, excuse me, it breaks it down into a dollar amount. So like, let's say that you've been awarded all the aid, all the scholarships you can get. You more than likely, they won't run into this at Tri-C. But if they go to a 4-year school and they receive X amount of dollars and they still need some money, this is where this contribution number comes in, because it throws it back on the family to say, okay, after evaluating all the information you put on the financial aid application, this is what we expect you to contribute to the student, or the student is expected to contribute to their cost of education. All right. So the EFC is used to determine the types of aid. It directly affects the amount of Pell Grant that a student gets. And we also use it in the calculation to determine how much student loans that a student can borrow. And the third program, which is our federal work study program, I was talking to different ones, and a lot of us got our start in higher education by doing internships in federal work study. So it also affects if you're able to participate within that program. So EFC is the same regardless of institution, and that's a good point. So all colleges and institutions are using the FAFSA. So you might get a low EFC at Tri-C, but you go to Yale or Harvard, they still have to work with that same EFC. Okay. Now, a big change is coming, and you'll get more information. For the longest time, the FAFSA has been well over 100 questions. It's a lot of information. So the government or Department of Education has been looking at shortening the application, literally cutting it in half. Less than that, maybe like 35 to 40 questions, which will be great for both us and the student. And we're making a shift. So for the longest time, you've heard EFC, family contribution number. They're actually changing that and making it a little bit more relevant for our times and calling it a SAI, which is a student aid index. So they're kind of taking that, they're making it, in the long run, it's going to make it more affordable for families, okay? So it's going to be a different calculation. They're still going to ask some of the same questions. We're still going to gather some of the same data that we have been. You just won't be asked as many questions, okay? And I was actually working with a student the other day, and I'm like, oh wow, they really do ask a lot of questions. It's like, and I'm asking a question, the student's looking like, I don't know. So I hope that it becomes a more streamlined application. I know that that's going to be rolling out towards the end of the year, early next year, because we're actually gearing, after we get this year started, then we're going to be looking towards another school year. So that's something that's coming down the pike. There are changes coming. The types of aid are not changing though. There'll still be Pell Grant, there'll still be student loans, there'll still be work study. It's just how do we get to that point will be changing. So, and all that will be behind the scenes. And I already stated, usually it can take a business week, calendar week, not any longer than unless there's an issue for us to receive your FAFSA. All right, next slide. All right, this is another important component. So it's not just getting the application, it's not just getting the EFC that tells us how much aid. We have to develop what's called a cost of attendance or budget. And what this basically is in layman's terms is a ceiling or a limit to how much financial resources you can receive. So let's say, now this is different from college to college, because it doesn't cost as much to go to Tri-C as it would CSU or Case or Yale or Harvard or a larger four-year school or even another community college. We pride ourselves on being the lowest cost tuition in the state, but obviously, so your cost of attendance will change. So let's throw a number out there. Let's say it costs $5,000 a year for a student to attend Tri-C, and hopefully I'm not over my time, but I'm almost done with my part. Let's use 5,000, okay? Huh? Okay, let's use 5,000. So included in that, let's say your cost of attendance is 5,000, all right? Included in that is direct and indirect costs. So our direct costs, the only thing really the student will be charged directly is tuition, fees, and some in books. Okay, books sometimes directly with the online books, or they have to walk into the bookstore and get their book, or Amazon, or wherever they go. So those are those direct costs. Indirect costs, so we increase within that 5,000, because we know most of the time it doesn't cost 5,000 to go to our school, but we want to increase the budget for living. So we got transportation, we got personal expenses, we have room and board. Even though we don't have dormitories, people still have to pay to live, to buy food, to rent, whatever. So we create a budget, and usually there's 2 or 3 budgets across the scope that we use that you fall into. And that EFC, it turns into yet another math problem, simple math. So you take the number minus their index number, and then basically that's how we come up with an award offer. And like I said, it can vary from school to school. It does incorporate more than what the student would incur at Tri-C, but it also, the Department of Education gives us leeway to develop a larger budget for the student, because we know they're having expenses outside of Tri-C as well. All right, next slide. All right, and our cost of attendance is something that is published. You know, Department of Ed requires that we publish our cost of attendances, and we use more than one depending on, you know, your situation, whether you're independent, dependent. And there are rare occasions where we can even specify the cost of attendance depending on what the student is going through. Like, let's say they need to buy $2,000 worth of nursing supplies. Well, that's not in this cost of attendance that you see on your screen, okay? Or, you know, they have to buy medical gear or, you know, different things that they use within their course of study. That's where we can actually customize it even more towards the student, for the student. All right, and I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Angel Poindexter, who will take you further in the presentation.
Hello. So I'm just gonna finish what Calvin started. Way to go, Calvin. That was great. So what types of aid is available? When students are applying for FAFSA, that would be considered like the federal financial aid. That is considered the loans, grants, work study. I always tell students when they call, they say, apply for FAFSA, but what about my loans? And I say, well, that is from FAFSA. They don't understand that part sometimes, but again, loans, grants, work study is all the federal financial aid from FAFSA. And then we have our institutional scholarships. They also have outside scholarships and also a few opportunities they can apply for like state aid or financial aid. So starting with the grants, we call it free money because you don't have to pay it back. As long as the student they're taking classes for their major, they will be eligible for the grants. The grant is based off of, again, FAFSA and like that EFC that Calvin was referring to. And then the maximum they can apply or be awarded is up to $3,698. That amount is for a full-time grant. It breaks down based off of how many credits the students actually register for as well. So for example, again, with that being a full-time grant, if a student is registered part-time, they would get half of that. So part of that full-time amount. The students also have a lifetime limit. It equals out to about 6 years, which would be 12 full-time semesters. But if a student decides they don't want to go 12 credits, or if, you know, some people have to take only 6 credits every semester, it'll just extend the life of that. But once they equal out to the 12 semesters, 6 years, then they're no longer eligible for Pell Grant. And that would be at our school and any school they ever like register for after they reach that maximum limit. Also the Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, that is a need-based grant, and students can be awarded up to about $400 per school year. So with the student loans, you have to pay those back. I would tell students, rule of thumb, if you don't need it, do not take it. With the student loans, it is available for their tuition expenses. I also say anything else, for instance, like what Calvin was saying, if a student needed to borrow more funds for nursing equipment or special programs or anything like that, the loan is available for them to take. There are 3 different types of loans that students can apply for as far as like the FAFSA loans. The first one would be the subsidized loan that grows no interest while the student is in school. The interest doesn't grow until the student has graduated or they leave or they decide they want to take a break. The unsubsidized loan, the interest will grow the day that they give it to us. So a lot of students obviously don't opt for that one because, of course, no one wants to pay additional interest. And then if we have out-of-state students that will come for like our sports programs, their parents usually will take out like a plus loan, and that is also to help like the student pay for like their, you know, rent or housing while they're away from home. That loan, the parent will actually apply for that, and that'll be in the parent's name. With all of the student loans, again, you don't pay those back until you actually graduate, or if you fall below 6 credits, or if, again, you just decide you don't want to go to school anymore. You also have a 6-month grace period at that time, and then the loan servicer will then contact the students for repayment. There's also many different like repayment options, but that's up to the students to actually pick which one is best for them. So with work study, that is also a federal financial aid. Work study is basically like a part-time job. A student can work on campus in between their class hours. It's designed where students don't have to make work a priority first. It's more so putting the schoolwork first, and then you can work in between those hours to actually earn money. They can work up to 20 hours a week. And then right now, all of our work study positions are $14 per hour. So if your department is hiring, definitely we can get flyers out. You can let students know. I always tell students also with applying for work study, it's not always about what you know coming to college. Sometimes it's about who you know as well. That together can help, moving forward past the college experience. I started as a work study student, and it was really great. Just being able to basically network. My boss, she said, "Oh, I know you don't live in this state, but I can help you gain now personal and work experience before you go home and get into, job searching at home." So it was definitely helpful to be a work study student. Scholarships. Scholarships are another part of financial aid that you don't have to pay back. We have our institutional scholarships, well, our foundation scholarships, where there's one application for all of our scholarship. And the way it works is basically our system will filter out what scholarships the student would be eligible for based off of their application. With the scholarships, you can pretty much apply for any of the items listed on the screen. So you have to maintain at least a 2.0 GPA for most of our scholarships and also be at least part-time. The scholarships, like I said, you can go onto our website. A lot of times that they are awarded first come, first serve. So once the funds are out, they're just out. I always tell students also that they should have an application on file, because just in case maybe like a student, they don't register or they only take a fall session and then don't register again for spring, that opens up funds for students to actually be awarded. So it's always good to have an application on file as well. So applying for the scholarships for Tri-C, you have to have a FAFSA on file. Well, complete application for admissions first. You have to be a student. It is times we'll have students call and say, "Hey, I'm going to get a scholarship." It's like, wait, you're not a student. So you do have to be a student. You will complete the FAFSA application because we want to make sure you're utilizing all of your financial resources. And then also on our Tri-C website, you can apply for the scholarship or through through the students' My Tri-C space. Students who are awarded are notified through their email, and then they'll have to write a thank you letter for the foundation. We actually do send those over to the foundation thanking them for giving them the funds for the scholarship. External scholarships, again, those are funds you still don't have to pay back, but that would be something that's awarded to the student that's from an outside source. So any extracurricular activities that the students may have participated in that may have offered a scholarship, if the student's parents, jobs, if they offer scholarships on high school. We tell students a lot about College Now. They really help a lot of our Tri-C students apply for scholarships and also mentor them through college. They're located downtown at Tower City, so they're a big resource with us. And then notify private scholarship. Okay. So fastweb.com is another scholarship source. I always tell students too that a lot of times you can just Google scholarships. Things will come up. Also, banks offer scholarships. Not all of them, but some of them. They don't advertise as much unless you do the digging. But pretty much everything, there's scholarships for everything out there, for being left-handed or right-handed, or having, being a certain height, for a female, there's so many different scholarships out there. Again, it's just the hardest part is looking for them. But again, you can simply Google search a lot of those as well. Question?
I believe Magda is asking, what is the appropriate timeline to apply for scholarships? Like, when should students submit that?
So I want to say our date was May. So there is a priority deadline that's on our website, but there isn't, I don't want to say like there's a wrong time. but let me tell you. Yeah. So usually, so our priority deadline for fall was April 3rd. Again, with the scholarships, they are first come, first serve. Yeah, it used to be May 1st, but April 3rd, it looks like that's posted on our website, was the priority deadline. But again, people can fill out scholarships literally throughout the school year. If the funds are available, then we would award the student with, and they meet the requirements. We would definitely award the student. I was just reading the chat real quick. Okay, yeah, and then like I said, with having the application on file, it still basically keeps that student's application like in the pool for scholarships. So again, like say if a student is awarded $4,000, $2,000 for fall and then $2,000 for spring. Say if the student only registers for fall and then they decide they want to transfer after fall. Now that $2,000 basically go back into the scholarship pool for that application. And we'll pull scholarships to see, okay, this scholarship is now available. It has this much money to offer. Who's the next person in line that we can offer it to that have a scholarship on file? That's pretty much how that works. That makes sense or answer your question? Yes, I hope so. So the book line of credit, so when students fill out their FAFSA application, so when students fill out their FAFSA application and they are awarded financial aid, whether if it's the student loan or if it's just the Pell Grant, any funds that are left over after we pay the balance is considered their refund. The next step for the student would then to fill out the Title IV authorization question that's on their My Tri-C space under the financial aid dashboard. That allows the Tri-C to use their federal financial aid funds to pay for things such as their books. Meaning it's not an additional amount, it's actually just using the refund. So when students go to the bookstore, they'll swipe their ID card, it'll show the charge on the student account. And once we actually receive the financial aid funds, then we'll just pay the tuition and now like the book funds that I'm not saying that right. The book charges that they've accrued or used in the bookstore. So it's not additional funds. It literally is just using their financial aid funds for the book credit. With the book credit, for first day book solutions, those are for the students will have online access to those textbooks and those are charged separately. And then that'll also be paid with financial aid. So it'll show up as a charge on their account. With authorizing book funds, depending on how many credits the students are eligible for, we do award in certain increments. And then also based off of how much refund that the student actually has. So if you see on the slide here where it says like full-time, a student is eligible for $850, meaning usually they are eligible for like the max amount of their Pell Grant award, and it'll be about that much left over as far as that or more in their refund, so we can authorize that. And then it goes all the way down to even less than half time, so 1 to 5 credits a student in county or sometimes in state will have about $200 left over where we can award that for books and they can use it up front. The minimum amount is about $100. Students will be notified via email a week before classes start. They can actually use those funds in the bookstore. Excuse me. I was going to say something else. With the bookstore, the nursing students are offered a little bit more. Usually our nursing students they will take out like student loans, just because a lot of times they aren't able to work as much, just because of the demand of their classes. So we have a list that'll go out. The nursing department will send it to the financial aid office, and they're actually awarded a little bit more than the $850. I want to say it was about $1,200 or $1,300 because they have to get basically like a bag of all their materials and nursing equipment for the semester or that school year. And disbursement policies, that is based on the session that the student is enrolled in. Financial aid funds will apply to their Tri-C account. That's typically 35 days after each session. So if the student has one session that started, say for instance, let's use summer for, they started on the 30th, then 35 days after that, the government then gives us the funds, we'll apply it to their account, pay their balance, and then usually within like the 14 days, we'll disperse their refund amount. A lot of times students will call in and say, well, I've been in class for 35 days. And then when you ask them when their classes start, you say, well, when did all your classes start? You check, they have 2 different sessions. So it's always after the later session that funds will actually, usually like a refund will go out. So students have to just keep that in mind as well. And then we'll process funds through Bank Mobile. And then, like I said, it's within like the 14 days that they will actually receive their refund. And I'm going to hand it over to Maida, and she will talk about Bank Mobile.
Thanks, Angel, and thanks, Magda, for offering this space for us to share the info with other staff. Now, as far as Bank Mobile, students will ask, I received an email from Bank Mobile, is this fraud, is this real, is this not? It is legit. We work with that company in order to provide students an opportunity to set up their deposit if they wish. Now, they don't have to do it. So if we ever have to reimburse them for whatever reason, for example, let's say that a student, it's not even using financial aid and they're paying out of pocket, and then they decide that they want to withdraw from a class. And then we have to, return that money back to them. They can set up the direct deposit so they can get that money faster, whatever we're reimbursing to them. Another example is if, let's say that they have financial aid left over that we have to send to them. They can set that up so that we can send that money through there. If they don't want to set it up, it's fine. They will still keep getting those Bank Mobile emails. But if they don't want to set it up and they don't feel comfortable doing it, they don't have to do it. So it will just come as a check in the mail for them. So it's optional. When they go on the Bank Mobile website, it gives them the option of uploading their own bank account. So for example, if they have like PNC already or some other bank, they can just go on the Bank Mobile website and save their routing number and their own account number and not open up a Bank Mobile account. Now, if they currently don't have a bank account, they have the opportunity of opening a checking account with Bank Mobile if they wish. So that's good for students that, are just establishing their checking accounts and maybe they want to start a new one. They can do it that way, or they can just put their own bank account. So whatever, they're comfortable with. All right. We also offer assistance with benefits. If student is in need of, let's say, daycare vouchers, or they are wondering if they qualify for food stamps, if they don't have currently a caseworker, we can sit down with them, give them an appointment where we can help them on the Job and Family Services website, basically to apply for those benefits. So we only help with the initial application if they currently do not have a caseworker. If they currently are receiving benefits, let's say that maybe they already have food stamps or maybe they already have Medicaid, in those cases, they have to follow up with their caseworker. We cannot interfere if they already are set up with someone. So we only help with that initial application if they never applied before. And there's also a pantry on campus that we refer students if they need help with food. I believe all the campuses have that available for those students in need. Now, as far as drop-in courses, if you ever run to any students that are thinking about drop-in courses and they are receiving financial aid, make sure that you refer them to talk to one of us. It is important that we go over their current SAP status, where we will check to see if they have appealed recently or not. That makes a difference because if they recently have appealed for financial aid, they have to have a certain completion rate for that specific semester. So it's important that they speak with us before dropping any courses, or it can mess up their appeal situation. Also, we will check the drop schedule that's online to make sure to see if they will owe any money, depending on what week or what day they drop. It's well, whatever percentage they will owe. So we will let them know, if you drive by this day, this is the percentage that you're gonna be charged for that class. We will also advise them if sometimes students want to drop a class and add the same exact class to start later. So we will advise them that if they do an interdepartmental transfer, they won't get charged twice for that same class. So we go over all those things, check their SAP, give them the options if they're signing up for the same exact class. And just making sure that they're not gonna end up with a huge balance of, $1,000 later on. And we just want to make sure that they're informed before they decide to make those decisions. All right, we also offer professional judgments. That is when students or their parents have a change of income, like some examples could be maybe the parent was laid off, or maybe they're going through a divorce, and the income in the household has changed. So there could be different scenarios as to why the income in the household has changed. So we typically do these by appointment, and where we speak with the student or the parent, and they'll let us know what took place. Typically, we have to wait 10 weeks to make any changes on the FAFSA. So whatever change of income they have had, we have to wait until 10 weeks go by before we make any changes. We also have to select them for verification. So they have to be able to provide, things like IRS transcripts or 1040s from the IRS, W-2s. We will also ask for information from their employment. So if they were laid off, for example, we will ask for a letter, showing that. If they received unemployment, we will ask for unemployment statements, W-2s, and things like that. Sometimes people have received a big lump sum of money for whatever reason, and then they've spent it already, and they want us to take that out of the FAFSA. So sometimes we have to ask for those statements to show that the money, is no longer there, so that we can make that change on the FAFSA. So we do that for lump sums as well, as long as they can prove that that money is no longer there. So again, we do these by appointments. It's really case by case. As long as the student, they can provide all the documents that we ask for, they have to write a statement explaining the situation. And these get assigned, whoever takes the call first. So when the student calls over the phone, whoever takes the call, that's usually the advisor that gets assigned to that professional judgment. Or if someone comes in person at our counter, that will be the advisor that gets assigned to that specific situation. Dependency overrides. So the Department of Education requires for students to provide parent information on the FAFSA until they're 24. If they're under 24 and they're not able to provide that information, we want to refer them to one of us so that we can discuss, what is going on with the biological parents. These can get a little bit uncomfortable because we have to ask questions, and sometimes the students don't want to share, or they're embarrassed, or maybe they've had a lot of trauma in the past where they just don't feel comfortable sharing a whole lot. So we kind of have to dig, but we have to ask those questions like, are you in contact with your biological parents? When's the last time you had contact with them? Were there things, a situation at home where, where you believe it was abusive or toxic? So we have to have those, unfortunately, uncomfortable conversations. We try to do it in private, try not to do it at the counter. We will step outside, and, go to somewhere where the student feels comfortable. But, if student is in contact with the biological parent, they have to try to seek that information to put it on the FAFSA. So we have to ask, are you in contact? And if they are, then they have to try to put the information on the FAFSA. Sometimes the parent just doesn't want to give it, doesn't want to cooperate, or just refuses to give their info, but they are in contact. In those situations where the parent just refuses, we do have a form that we can provide the student where the parent can sign off on it, indicating that they're just refusing to do it. And in those cases, unfortunately, the student has to borrow a loan. They will not be considered for free grants. But that's an option if, if the student is in contact with the parent, but they're just refusing to give their info. We'll give them the option to borrow a loan. All right, now as far as satisfactory academic progress, we are required by the federal government to monitor students to make sure that they're being successful. Obviously, they don't want students to keep using money and keep withdrawing or failing, so we have to monitor them after every semester. We make sure that they're maintaining a 67% completion rate. That's why it's important for them to talk to us before dropping courses so that we can make sure that they're in compliance. They have to maintain a 2.0 GPA overall. That's important. And they have to finish their degree before reaching 150% of what's required. So what that means is, for example, at an associate, it's about 60 credits. So if they're going for an associate's, we will allow them to attempt up to 90 credits. If when they get to 90 credits, they're still not done with their associates, they can go through an appeal process to ask for extra time. So that happens sometimes if a student has changed their major before, maybe they decide to go for something else, or maybe they have transferred here a bunch of credits from another school. Sometimes they reach that 90 credit limit, and they have to go through that appeal process. The appeal itself is 3 steps. If they ever have to appeal, they can see a counselor to complete an academic plan, or they can do it by themselves. We provide them with a blank academic plan, and they could do it on their own with their audit, or see the counselor. And then they also have to upload the audit for from DegreeWorks, and they have to write a statement explaining the circumstances. Typically for appeals, they want to know, what happened when you were enrolled that was out of your control? What extenuating circumstance did you have? And how is your situation better now? So they have to write and explain how is the situation better now, and what steps are they going to take in order to be successful. So for example, the student will say something like, I will make sure I follow up with tutoring. I'll make sure I follow up with an academic counselor. If they were having mental health issues, they can say, I'll make sure, I'll stick with therapy once a week, or, whatever the situation is. They have to have a plan of how they will finish up successfully. All right, now in regards to transient students, typically transient students cannot use financial aid here. A lot of times we get their FAFSA anyways because they don't know. They just send it to us. But transient students are required to set up a payment plan with us, or pay in full, whatever they decide. They cannot be awarded scholarship from us, unfortunately, because to be eligible for scholarships here, you have to be degree seeking. So if they're seeking a degree for somewhere else, they have to get the scholarships there at the other school. So transient students, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of help for them. They're not eligible for the emergency funds either. So we wish that we could help them a little bit more, but unfortunately, our focus are on our students that are seeking the degree here. All right, now course program of study is kind of new. I think it's been in effect for 2 to 3 years at this point, I believe. So what this means is that we will only pay for classes that are for the degree that the student is seeking. So many years back, students used to be able to take other classes for their bachelor's, and those used to get paid. And it was nice for them because they were able to get ahead on their bachelor's. But that has changed in the last couple of years. Right now, we will only pay for classes that are for their tri-state degree. So it's gotten a little bit more strict, unfortunately. The way it works is when students sign up for classes, overnight, we have a system that runs and checks the classes to make sure that it's lining up with the major that they have on file. If the major is wrong, they'll get an email indicating that the classes that they signed up for do not match, and then there's an issue and that they won't get aid for those classes. So, once the student gets the email, they typically call us and we check their major. And if it's wrong, we tell them that they have to update it. If the major is right and the classes are still not matching, which sometimes it happens, we refer them to counseling to see what the issue is. Are they signed up for the wrong class, or does the counselor need to submit a correction with their audit? So counselor will be able to advise them and, see what they have to do in those cases. All right. Now, a couple announcements in regards to the Department of Ed. There was a loan dip program that, Biden had announced, but they did put it on hold, and I believe it's in the courts right now. So if anybody has submitted, and that could be you, staff or students, have submitted an application to be forgiven in the loans, it's currently on hold, basically. So you may have submitted an application and you probably haven't heard anything back. I know my husband had submitted one and he hasn't heard anything because it's still in courts. Because they were trying to basically block it from not going through. So we will see what happens with that, if it goes through or not. So if you get any students asking about that, you can refer them to the Department of Education for more information. Currently, the Congress has passed a law where if your loans, your student payments have been on hold for the last 3 years because of COVID. So that was a nice break for everyone, not having to make payments. But recently, they indicated the payments will resume in October. So starting this October, if your loans have been on hold all this time during COVID, you will have to start remaking payments in October. And you can reach out to your lender, whoever you have, if you have currently loans that you haven't paid yet. And they'll work with you and let you know when you have to make your next payment. I also wanted to share about public service loan forgiveness. And I did want to share my own story with that. Because of COVID, there was like a temporary waiver where some of my prior payments that I had made towards the loan, because of COVID and the temporary waiver that they had, they were able to count it towards this PSLF program. So basically, this program is for people that work for government entities or nonprofit. In our case, Tri-C participates in this program. So if you currently have loans that you currently owe, you can submit the PSLF application to HR here at Tri-C. They will certify it and then you will send it back to the Department of Education. You have to have worked for at least 10 years here at Tri-C or wherever you're working. And you have to have made 120 qualifying payments. So with that temporary waiver, it was nice for me because prior payments that I had made towards a private loan, which I didn't even know I had borrowed a private loan. When I was a student, I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the guidance from my parents. I was just kind of, doing it on my own. So years later, I found out that that it was a private loan and that those payments did not count. But because of that COVID temporary waiver, they were able to count those payments and make it part of those 125 qualifying payments. So I did get forgiven of $16,000, which was amazing. So I did want to include this slide here to share with everyone that, if you have been here for at least 10 years and you have loans out there, you can submit that PSLF form to HR and then submit it to the Department of Ed. And then hopefully that could work for you too. All right, so we have about 3 minutes. We wonder if you guys had any questions for us, anything that you want us to go over. So go for it if you have any questions. Don't go all at once. All right, now while we're waiting, we do, oh, there's a question, let's see. It was about the EFC. Did you see that, Kelvin?
It says, is the EFC,
so-
yeah, is the EFC on the FAFSA SAR the same as the EFC on the student website?
I would say, what do you mean by student website? The My Tri-C space?
Yes, no, I'm sorry, when they look at their dashboard and financial aid on their My Tri-C space.
Oh, typically they'll find their EFC on their student aid report, and I don't think we have that on the student website. What will be listed on the student website would be like their award, their types of awards, and the cost of attendance.
I don't think the EFC is on my.
Yeah.
page.
Okay, so maybe I'm looking at something wrong and misstating, sorry.
No problem.
Online, they'll see their cost of attendance, which is like those big numbers, but I don't think the actual EFC is posted on their My Tri-C space. It's in their SARS. So if they go to studentaid.gov, they can pull it up on there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So for the schedule that you had shared, Calvin, earlier on the financial aid workshops, the FAFSA workshops that are hosted at the campuses, is there a specific time at each campus, a schedule that we can maybe refer to?
Yeah, typically, Maida, correct me if I'm wrong, it's typically from 3 to 4 on that
Yes.
Tuesday.
Correct.
So no matter which location, it's always on a Tuesday at 3 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And
Are there
here
any other questions for our presenters today? Feel free to unmute yourselves.
And just wanted to share really quick before time is up. These are the ways that students can contact us. They can chat with us, call us, email us, come in as a walk-in. Some things do require appointments, but most of the time we can just help them right there and then.
Thank you for the presentation. It'll be very useful. You know, when somebody comes to TLC and asks the questions, we know, where to send, what are the things we can tell them before send to the financial aid. Hey, you need this kind of stuff to finish up your FAFSA. You cannot just walk in and try to finish up without any financial information or all the documentation necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mary Ann had a comment. Thank you for your comment as well. And thank you, Magda, for giving us the opportunity to share info with other staff. We don't get to see each other a whole lot, so it's nice to connect this way.
Absolutely. I appreciate so much. Once again, thank you all, our presenters, for taking the time to give us this valuable information, and to all of our participants today on the call. Once again, I will be sharing the recording with all of you via email, and Myra, if you did send me the PowerPoint, so I will share the PowerPoint as well with all of our participants, as well as including the recording on the website for future folks who were not able to attend the session today. I'd like to remind everyone we do have one final summer workshop series for Unidos por la Educación, and that will be about how to support international students at Tri-C. And this will be on Monday, July 10th from noon to 1, once again on WebEx. So thanks once again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, all of our presenters. We really appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good day.
Bye.